All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Pop open those pill bottles. It is time to take your daily dose.
Nice.
We are joined by Marilou Eller today.
Hello.
Marilou is a wonderful human being, a great friend of mine, and a talented artist. Do you want to just introduce yourself a little bit about, I don't know, anything you want to say?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Marilou, and it's so funny that you titled me as an artist, and I was so flattered that y'all invited me here because I do struggle with my identity as an artist. I feel like throughout my life I've definitely dabbled in many different mediums, like grew up dancing and then writing and painting and drawing and acting, as of course we went to school for, and now I'm like, what phase of art am I in? Like what am I as an artist?
Yeah.
What does that mean to me? How do I practice that? So yeah, I think I am still just like forever evolving and figuring out what I am as an artist. But I do love to paint. Recently got into baking, and I definitely consider that to be art.
Absolutely,
art.
absolutely.
Yeah, though like in my daily work life, I do work with children on the autistic spectrum, and we do like paint by numbers, so we be doing art there. But yeah, I am just a lover of any and all things expressive and creative and communicative, especially.
Yeah.
So I don't think that introduced myself at all, but
Yes, it did.
we're just gonna run with it. We're gonna run.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I feel like I've always thought of you as being one of the most like creative and artistic people like in my realm, just because like obviously I knew that you were an actor because we went to school for acting. We went and I remember when I first discovered that you painted, when you shared some of your paintings with us like freshman year, and I was like, oh, so this is like an artist. Like she like and it's incredible. Your work is incredible. And then it was one of those things where you've always been like you said, like an explorer, and you like whenever you're interested in something, I see you exploring things, and so yeah, I think that you like I think artist is the correct term. It's like an umbrella term, right?
I love it. Yeah, it's similar to how I'm just like queer can be an umbrella term.
Exactly.
Yeah. Artist is, and
Yeah.
whatever falls under it, however you want to like pick and choose that.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, that's great. That's very thoughtful. And it's interesting, too, where the fact that I struggle with that identity, you're so, you as, like, a close friend and peer for the last, how long, like 5 or 6 years?
Yeah.
Are just like, yeah, you're an artist.
Yeah.
Like, of course. And I'm like, what?
Of course we would have you on this podcast. You are an artist.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, we actually... I'm going to let Taja begin our zines for today.
Zines?
Our zines.
Our
I'm so
zines?
sorry.
Oh my.
That's the first time I've done that, I think.
Yeah, I did it the other day when I was talking about it with my mom.
You make me a little nervous.
So these zines, that was the correct way.
Yeah.
Because I want to call them zines, but they're not.
Magazines.
It is a form of creating any type of magazine in the olden days, not really olden days, but like 40 years ago. It was originally created for like to make like kind of fan-based comic books based off of sci-fi shows and things, and then it kind of transferred into like radical papers, so like you know queer people use them as a way to educate people on like HIV and like you know the community and things like that. But now it's just like a free, fun way to just display art or poetry or written work in a cheap format. But with this one, it's kind of just do how you feel. There's no really prompt.
Yeah.
And we're also talking, so like.
Whatever.
Yeah. Whatever happens, we just.
We also have a like new collection of things to play with.
Some book
because
covers.
Culture Winston-Salem got all of these new like book covers and like I don't know what all of this is.
Ooh. Who's that?
Life magazine.
Shocking poverty spawns red.
June 16th, 1961.
Weddings.
20 cents?
Comic books.
Yeah, there's some comic books. So yeah, we got some fun stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Are you gonna do a full page or are you gonna fold it in half?
I will do a full page again. I just like the full page. Yeah.
Well, the first time when we did it like we folded them in half, and then we kind of just started doing full pages.
Some of the examples are in there.
So it's giving like collage.
Yeah. Look, it's giving collage or whatever you want.
But you know, we have markers and stuff. You can draw. You can. There's some like little tapies.
Right.
I don't know how to speak. Yeah, I think just.
I definitely have like all of the paper cuttings, so if y'all need anything, let me know.
Okay, well then let's hop into these questions, Marilou.
Okay.
So what brought you to art?
I would say that my dad brought me to arts, and I guess more specifically his mom, who is also my namesake. So my dad's mother's name is Marilou, and it is, of course, my name as well.
Yeah.
And she was an actress. She lived in Chicago. She did a lot of like plays, and then she did some stuff on camera, I believe. We were watching some movie. My dad pauses it, or he was watching a movie more like. It was some older movie. I don't know the name. I don't know the name of this person in the story, but he paused it and was like, that guy right there is a semi-famous actor from this time period, and he gave your grandma Marilou a run around the couch. And what he means is like he was after her and was like flirting with her and stuff.
I was like,
I'm married. Like the term run around the couch. I'm married. He was like, she was involved with like these actors and actresses and this lifestyle that, unbeknownst to me, I ended up following her path semi, like, I don't know, pretty on the nose, where I was like, I'm going to be an actress, and I'm going to move to Chicago, and maybe I'll work as a flight attendant. But yeah, my dad definitely introduced me to the arts, and we would go to, so I grew up in Durham, we would go to DPAC shows.
Yeah.
See musicals at the Durham Arts Center, and I did like chorus as an elementary school kid. So I got to do evening of entertainment. We did D.O.E. on the DPAC stage. So
cool.
I performed there too.
Yeah, like I've been everywhere.
You're not special. Or maybe we're just all special.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But yeah, and then throughout high school, I had like a very specific, I don't know, like, I had all these friends freshman year of high school that were not good for my like well-being or development, and then lost all of them at the end of freshman year.
Probably what you needed to do.
It's definitely what I needed. But the way that I found a new group of friends was taking theater classes. Yeah. And so all of my friends were in theater, or I was doing AP art at the time too. So I was just, all the positivity was surrounded by art. And so I think I just followed that. And it's taken me a year.
Yeah. You know? That's a great thing, I guess. It's like, this like collection of people created good feelings, and so I moved towards that and away from the bad feelings, and now I'm here. You know?
Yeah. And here we are. I joined theater, I guess, just like as a fun extracurricular thing, but then it did become a huge part of my life because all my friends did it as well. Yeah. And I wasn't at all like, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to do theater.
Yeah.
That was not my path.
That wasn't.
I went to UNCG for their nursing program.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So I specifically chose our UNCG because they have like the second nursing program in the state or something behind Chapel Hill. And I just really, I always wanted to help people. I love helping people. And yeah, I definitely lost the passion by the time that I got to college, and was just like, ooh, I don't know if I want to dedicate all that time to something that I'm not closely passionate about, because A, waste of money and time. So I just chose the second thing that I love to do, and that was theater.
I love that. That's hilarious. My backup plan was theater.
And then I started doing theater, and everyone started asking me, "What's your backup plan?"
Yeah, what's your backup plan? So you've touched a lot on like all of this. So I feel like I don't even need to ask the question, but it is the next one on my list.
Yeah.
What is your chosen craft?
I think that is a tough question because I have made it semi-clear to just like have dabbled in a lot of different things, and as I reflect, because I've had this thought before and asked myself this similar question, I thought that dabbling in so many different things, but not mastering one of them, kind of like put me not behind, but kind of hindered my ability to like hone in on something.
Right, like a jack of all trades,
Right.
master of none.
Master of none, for sure. But I do think that something that all of these forms of medium share are just is like an act of love for myself and also for other people. Recently I had it pointed out to me by my partner that I haven't practiced creating art solely for myself. It was always for something in class. It was always for a performance or a gift.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I did this really cool drawing, but it was for a Secret Santa present. Or I did this
it was for,
Right, it was for somebody else.
Yeah.
Or just, no, it was just for somebody else.
Yeah.
And they was like, when was the last time you created something just for you? And I was like, oof. Ouch.
Yeah.
So recently I've just gone through so many life transitions of just like getting a new job, moving to a new city, etc., that in my free time I have been just sitting down with a blank canvas and like adding to it a little bit every time.
Yeah.
And it's not finished and it doesn't have any clear like message or story or whatever, but it is just a way for an excuse, I guess, for me to practice art. And so to answer your question, I think my can you actually re-ask the question?
What's your chosen craft?
I think it would just be a form of expressing love, whether it's to myself or to other people. Because yes, I wasn't creating for myself all the time, but that was a way of me showing love for this person.
Sure.
Or as a way to like communicate something.
Yeah.
So I think communication and loving would be like my chosen art form, if that's an acceptable answer.
Oh, of course.
For sure.
Your acceptable answer could be Cameron. My chosen craft is whatever it is.
I want it to be.
Whatever, yeah. I've always been of the thought that art is a way of storytelling, a way of communicating, a way of expressing oneself, and a way of like connecting to others and like creating empathy. So like the craft is whatever it is. If it's writing, if it's dancing, if it's painting, whatever. But at the core, like what you're doing is like one of those things or all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say your chosen arts would be for each of you?
No, Cameron, the immediate.
I want to hear Taja's answer
what?
first.
A lot of things. Before, I just did visual art classes in high school, and so then I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I dived into theater. What's funny is that in theater, my first thing was sound. I love doing sound.
Like sound engineering.
Yeah, and it wasn't really until I went to an interview at UNCSA.
Yeah.
That was not an interview yet, the open house. And we toured the sound department, and I was like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Like, I was like, there is no way that I can do this. So I was like, okay, let me go back to the drawing board. And so, like, junior year, I went to a architecture camp at UNC Charlotte, which was probably the nerdiest thing I could have ever done. Like, we stayed there overnight for like a month, I think.
For a month?
Yeah, in like the dorms. And it was very fun. And then I was like, architecture is fun, but it does have its limitations. Ooh, kitties.
Architecture in like buildings.
Yeah, like buildings, and like you have to get very specific with what you want to do, whether it be like elevators or stairs or you know, you have to like get to a niche of like what type of art or like urban or
Sure.
you know, city or you know, like it's like, and I was like, this is too much. But I really like designing spaces. That's what I like to do.
You do like designing spaces.
I love designing spaces. So then, you know, in theater, I was like, my theater teacher, I was like, who does the set for all these shows?
For like set design?
Yeah. And then like I worked with the construction teacher for one show. And then I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. Not build it, but design it.
What show was it? Do you remember?
A Christmas Carol.
Lovely.
Yeah. I'm like, but then from there, you know, I went to school for scene design. I graduated. And then I started doing scene design stuff. And I was like, this is all right. But there's like a disconnect from people being a scenic designer. Because you don't really physically have to talk to any, like, talk physically face to face with anybody. Like, you can do everything over Zoom. You don't really necessarily need to be at the space. You kind of design it, and they're like, oh, yeah. They're like, oh, we just built it, and you know, sending you a picture, and you're like, but I don't want to be there with the people.
Yeah.
And then Cameron contacted me, and then dove into production design for film, which is a whole different ballgame in terms of, you know, designing spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. Exhibition and designing spaces, that I think, like, is a really great way to describe, I think, the things that you do very well and also that you enjoy.
Yes.
Is, like, creating an atmosphere.
Yes. Which is why I want to do Quinn so bad. But, you know, we'll get to, you know, that is... I wrote a script for an immersive theatrical experience.
An immersive experience.
Immersive. And so it's giving, like, Sleep No More and Meow Wolf combined into one setting, which is a lot. And it takes time to develop. So if anybody wants to give me $50K to do this, that would be greatly appreciated. But until then, it'll be in development.
It'll be in development.
Yeah.
Heard.
Cameron.
Oh, I forgot that we were going to...
I know we're going down the line.
I think similar to you actually, Marilou, that I have a lot of interests, and I feel like I love to explore different things, and I have, like, in my brain, like, art that I do that I feel really good about, and then art that I do that's just for fun, that's just for me. Nice. And, like, that is all kind of, like, like, I got into, like, painting a little bit during, like, low points in my life because it was, like, a fun way to express myself without being... Because I've never painted before, really, like that. And so it was, like, something that I could do that was just for fun. And I genuinely had no expectations for myself to be good at it or to like, and so that I haven't done that in a long time, but that became like in the realm of things that I do for myself that is like fun and just like self-expression, and that no one needs to see. That's just for me, kind of thing. But I think that ultimately my chosen craft is storytelling and sharing experience. And I think that I'm kind of exploring different ways of doing that. Like, I mean, I'm a writer. That's probably, like, one of the things that I think is definitely, like, top craft for me is, like, writing. And all of that is telling story, right? And, like, that's how I work through my inner emotions and, like, things that I see in the world. And like, if there's something bothering me, like if there's like an emotion or like I notice a trait in like people around me that I can't get out of my head. Like, this happened to me recently, actually. I spent some time with a friend of mine, and something that they said was like bothering me because it was like a worldview that I just didn't agree with. And not in a bad way, not in a like it was offensive or anything like that. It was just like, I don't see the world that way, and I don't think that that's a healthy way to see the world, kind of thing.
Very fair.
And it was bothering me, and I don't sleep, we know this.
Yeah.
And so one night, I can't, I have a hard time with sleep. I have a rocky relationship with sleep. And the other, like literally a few nights ago, I couldn't sleep. And so whenever I can't sleep, sometimes I just get up and just like do stuff. Like I'll clean my bathroom or I'll like do dishes or something. Yeah. Just because. And I actually think that it helps me kind of relax a little bit. Like, because a lot of times when I can't sleep, it's because I'm thinking about something. And so if I do something, that gets my mind off of it. So the other night, I was just thinking about this conversation that I'd had with this person. And I just like wrote a monologue. I was like, and now I think I want to put it into a script. Like I think that it's like, and so to bring it back to the question, for real, it's writing and is a way of like, I think exploring not only the things that I feel and I experience, but also the things that I see that I don't understand. And at the core, it's always about empathy for me. It's always about like, how can I write to deepen my understanding of the world and of other people's experience, but also write to share my experience with the hopes that someone can understand that or maybe see a perspective that they wouldn't have thought about before. Just because I've had the privilege of experiencing so much art that has made me feel less alone and like more connected to humanity than ever, you know what I mean? And so I think that while there are experiences that I will never have just because of who I am in the world, I can intake art and experience that can make me feel for those experiences. Does that make sense? And so I think that that's really, really powerful. You know, like emotion is always more powerful than like intellect, right? Like that's what we talked about like last week, is making someone feel something is always gonna be powerful in like changing people's mind and like whatever. Yeah. Not that my goal in my art is to change anyone's mind, but
I think in a lot of art, maybe it's not the goal, but when people know that art is good or powerful is when it can pull an emotion out of you. Yeah. It doesn't have to be
absolutely
the specific emotion.
And the thing that I love about like there's certain things like watching a movie or like reading a book or something, or even just like seeing like a piece of art. What I love is when that piece of art has nothing to do with anything that you've experienced, but it makes you think of like something that you have experienced. Right. And it's like, wow, like this, there's this painting, and I'm gonna totally butcher it. I think it's a Monet painting. It's like an unfinished piece. It exists in a portrait gallery in London, and I saw it one time because I studied abroad in a summer in school. Right. And I think it's a Monet. Manet, maybe? It's Monet. One of those.
Yeah, Monet.
I don't know. I'm gonna find it, and I'm gonna like edit into it. I'm gonna edit into the. If you're watching the podcast, you're gonna see the actual painting. Just like, and it's an unfinished piece, but it is a painting of an execution that occurred. Like a real execution that happened, and it's like the like man is like tied up and he has like a blindfold on, and there's like a guy pointing a gun at him. But the piece was the piece of the guy was like ripped off of the painting. And I think that it was like meant to be a form of like censorship. And so in the piece that was originally displayed, all you see is the guy holding the gun. And then like now in the modern museum, they've like reattached the piece that was ripped off. Hello everyone, this is Cameron from the future in the editing room. And upon further research into this painting, basically everything that I said on the podcast is incorrect. I completely misremembered everything about this piece. And so I just want to squash some of that. The piece is Edouard Manet's The Execution of Maximilian. I'm going to link the National Gallery's description of the piece in our podcast description and in our description on YouTube, so that if you're interested and you want to do a little bit more research into the history of the piece, you can do so. Yes, so I apologize for the misinformation. I will say that upon looking at the piece again while doing this research, the emotional impact is still absolutely there. Obviously, it was strong because I remembered the piece, even if I remembered it so incorrectly. Yes, but I hope that you go and look at the piece, or if you're watching the podcast, I hope that you're looking at it on the screen. And yes, I'm going to let you get back to the podcast now. I apologize again. And I don't know what it was about that piece and that I looked at it for 3 hours. I was like,
I do love that.
I was like, I cannot resonate with that experience at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've never been assassinated. I've never, you know what I mean? I've never known anyone who's been executed in any kind of way like that. Mm-hmm. It was honestly before I had experienced real true death in my life, other than my grandfather, but because I have experienced real true death since then.
Yeah.
And major grief and heartbreak in that way. But it was before all of that.
Oh.
And so I don't know what it was about that piece. And that's what I mean, it resonated so deeply with me, and I felt so deeply for it. I think it had to do with the censorship of it, and because that's always been very interesting to me, is how the world chooses to show art, and it's oftentimes the censorship does more damage than the actual piece.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm going off on a huge tangent right now.
Okay.
But
That's good.
That's what whenever people ask me what kind of genre do I like to write, I always say dark comedy. And I think that the real answer to that question is that I like to expose, the real answer is my favorite genre is Southern Gothic literature. That's my favorite genre of literature, because I'm very Southern. I don't know if you knew this about me.
Very Southern.
I'm from Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived in the South my entire life. Mm-hmm. That is a big part of who I am, I think. And Southern Gothic literature was created to show the ugliest parts of humanity. That's literally what it is. It's if you think of the Hunchback of Notre Dame is a French Gothic piece, and that is where Southern Gothic comes from. Mm-hmm. And that's literally a piece about a man who is disfigured, and he is cast aside from society, and he is horribly abused by the world, and it has a terribly sad, tragic ending. All it is just, these are the ugliest parts of humanity, and that's what it is. And I think Southern Gothic takes that, and then obviously you have the Southern culture to it, which is a different side of ugliness, but also beauty in a weird way. I don't know how to explain it, but that's my favorite, is the parts of humanity and those gross, uncomfortable feelings that we all experience, that none of us want to talk about. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite thing to write. And so I think that, really, to come back from this tangent, writing, storytelling, and then filmmaking it, and most recently I feel I've been exploring how the actual act of the holding the camera and choosing what to shoot can be a part of that storytelling. Yeah. That's something I'm still experiencing and still kind of
the director's sense of it, or
even to more of the videographer, DP, because I've never done any of that really until recently, experience with the lab, and how do you best tell the story, because the camera has a lot of power, what you see and how the camera is, if it's moving, that is a part of the storytelling, and that's something I've been kind of exploring recently. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But Marilou, this podcast is not about us. This podcast is about you.
This podcast is, I'll accept it.
So,
so
we're gonna move on to the next question. But no, that was a great conversation. I really enjoyed all of that. So I feel this is always a difficult question because it's something that is ever changing. But what do you think your ambitions are as an artist?
This is the question I will say that I've thought most about after listening to other podcasts I've heard. One that I was okay, Okay, they ask this every time.
Mm-hmm.
What's my answer?
Mm-hmm.
And I think my biggest ambition with art and how it plays out in my life is just to continue to practice it in one way or another. And it does change for me all the time of like either how often I do it or how I practice art or what role it plays in my immediate life or my everyday life more so. I've realized recently after going through all these like major life transitions in the span of like 2-3 months.
Yeah, very.
It was a lot very fast. And during those times I was not able to practice any art, or I wasn't giving myself space to do it because everything else was so overwhelming. That I really felt like outside of myself. I didn't feel in tune or in touch with like how I wanted to express myself, either in like the way that I dress or who I surround myself with, maybe more specifically. And so I think my ambition is just to practice that and to cultivate a space for myself, whether it's like in my apartment or with the people that I spend majority of my time with, just to be able to express myself freely in whatever phase of life that I'm in.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like why I live in a city where there's nothing to do, and all of my friends are maybe like 15 to 20 to 25 minutes away. And I just left the service industry, and all of my friends are still in the service industry. So my schedule is
Shout out. Yeah, for real. That is true. I feel like every time I try to I'm like, Marilou works 9 to 5. I work all weekend.
And now I work 9 to 6. I'm like, oof. My schedule just got bumped up to like 42 hours a week with children. So
that's a lot of time.
The kiddos.
And so, yeah, and with that, I have been having to like fill my time by myself. And so I recently also deleted all of my social media.
Did you?
I didn't like delete the account. I just deleted the app off my phone.
Yeah.
Because an addiction that people don't talk about, or maybe they do, but that I don't hear people talk about, I guess, is like scrolling.
Yeah.
Just
Scrolling
I find myself aimlessly, blindly scrolling. And I didn't have, like, when you do, like, you're on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is, you don't have control over what you see, and it affects you in
that's true.
It affects you. So by deleting that, I like put myself in a position where if I want to absorb any form of media, I have to go out of my way to choose it.
Yeah.
Whether it's like YouTube or a movie, a show, a podcast, music, whatever. And so like I get my dopamine where I choose to get it.
Yeah.
And so that's like why I started that painting. I would just have a movie or music in the background, and I would just sit at my table with all of my paints, and there's no like specific palette. I found with practicing art just for myself is that when I'm painting, it's really colorful, and then when I'm drawing, it's just with pen, and it's usually like sad drawings. If you just looked at my sketchbook of like ink like sketches or full out pieces, they're so dark, and I'm like, girl, I'm not this depressed. That's something I mean.
So
like,
interesting.
I can only draw a sad face. Like,
Interesting.
It's really odd.
So we're not depressed.
I'm not this depressed. It's okay.
Don't worry about me. Also, am I okay? But yeah, so I think, to round about what is my ambition is just to like keep art a part of my life, and a practice that I consciously make a choice, something that I consciously choose to practice. Because if I don't, I feel lost, like without, because that is just how I realign with myself, is like there are things that need to come out of me, and either I need to like journal about it, or draw about it, or paint about it, or bake about it.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm gonna bake it, and I'm gonna eat my feelings.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
For sure.
I think that's a great ambition.
Yeah.
It feels it, and a great segue into the next question.
Yeah.
So how do you think that your art influences your mental health?
Very directly.
That's the immediate yes.
Very directly.
Yes.
I also will say, I think of the way that I dress and present. I'm very much a person who's like, look good, feel good.
Yeah.
If my skin is breaking out, or if my hair looks, or if I feel like my hair looks bad, my mood or my self-esteem is like shot. And so I've gotten a pretty good handle on that. That plus my space in my apartment. You haven't been there yet, but I did, like, when I moved in, I made a point to, like, set it up immediately. I can't live with, like, boxes or paintings unhung or whatever. I was like, this is now my place. It's the first time I've lived alone. So I'm like, this is completely my space. I don't have to worry about anybody else. It's everything that I want to put up or where I want to put it to. In my apartment, there's a place for everything. And so, like, if I'm feeling out of touch with myself, or if my mental health is like, girl, get it together, I'll just rejudge my place. I'll, like, interior design was a thing, or like a form of artistry that I was really into at a certain time. And, like, still am. I just like creating spaces. I thought that I could do it maybe as a job, but I was like, what does that even look like? But yeah, so it definitely directly affects it. If I'm needing a boost in my mood or just mental health in general, I just get back to my roots.
Yeah.
Which is literally my roots, like, inside of me, of like checking in, realigning with whatever it is that's off, and like doing that by myself too, because I'm an extrovert, but I have a lot of like introverted tendencies, I suppose. Recently I've just been like really overwhelmed in life, and I was stretching myself too thin of seeing people constantly. I give a lot of like emotional and mental energy and stamina at my job, so that is a big thing. And then just packing my weekends or my time off with what other people need, which I do love to give myself and give my love however I can, like show up for people, but I was not showing up for myself, and I didn't realize it until it was all like weight on my shoulders piled on top of me, and I was like, oh no, I'm crying in sticks and stones.
Oh no. No.
Like, fuck.
Not my pizza.
My pizza.
Aw.
But yeah, and so that was last week, and this week has just been about giving myself space and time and doing what I need to do.
Yeah.
In the ways that I want to do it.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I love that. I didn't even think about this when talking about my crafts. But I will say, in that sense of like self-care, like I don't want to talk to anybody, I'm just gonna go home and be with Cameron tonight. What I do is sewing. Yes.
I love sewing, and I regret not practicing that consistently.
And I think that it actually goes into that like ways of showing love, because like the holiday season's coming up and everyone's getting a sewing project from Cameron.
Like
everyone.
already...
Like if you get a gift from me, which I don't know if everybody's getting a gift because I only have so much time, but if you get a gift from Cameron, it's gonna be a sewing project.
And I remember getting a Cameron Valentine one year.
Oh yeah, I did. I used to make Valentine. I forgot about that.
You made Valentine?
Yeah, I used to make it for our BFA class and for my close friends. Yeah.
But yeah, so sewing has been your
big
form
time.
of self-love.
Glass of wine.
Yeah.
Like a good show or a movie, and a sewing project. The final question that we have before Taja shares her topic.
I'm excited for this topic.
I'm super excited. I have no idea what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And I guess I kind of know the answer to like the first half of this question, but what brought you to the Triad area, and
Like,
why are you still here?
Why am I still here? I
Why?
ask myself that a lot.
Same.
Why am I still here?
Same.
so glad.
We love you, Triad. We're not dissing you.
No, but I grew up in Durham, which is like
Durham.
Durham,
North Carolina.
Full city, baby. But anyway, I was like born and raised in Durham.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently in Winston, so it's like an hour and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
Went to school in Greensboro, which is an hour away from my hometown, and I currently live in Kernersville, which is 15-20 minutes away from Greensboro. So I've just been in this area.
Yeah, all over.
Don't ask me why I'm in Kernersville, because I still don't know.
In the country.
I actually really like it, though, because I just like the quiet that I find in Kernersville.
It's very quiet,
it's
yeah.
very peaceful. I lived on Spring Garden Street in Greensboro. And
It's loud.
Nightlife, the house down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Fireworks.
Fireworks. The
Every
first
night.
time that my partner spent the night at my apartment, he was leaving the next morning, and his tire was stolen.
Yeah.
Off of his car.
Off of the car. Just like...
Just the whole tire was gone.
Yeah,
someone was really desperate. They're like, I need it.
They just need it. And it's not even like a good tire.
Yeah, it's just a
like,
tire.
He joked about how lucky he was that they took that specific one of like the back left, which was the worst tire of all of them. I was like, okay. I'm so sorry. I was like, this is my apartment in like my neck of the woods that stole this from you.
Sorry.
But anyway, back to your question, why am I in the triad? As I did mention earlier, I chose UNCG because of their nursing program, but that was brought to my attention in high school. I got pretty close to my, he was the assistant principal at the time. Now works at a different school as the principal.
Okay.
Shout out James Hopkins.
Hey.
We love him. But I had no clue like where I wanted to go to college. If I wanted to go to college, I had like a weird. I guess everyone has a weird high school experience.
Yeah.
To be honest, but I just kind of felt lost, and so he was like, "You should look at Greensboro," and I had never heard of Greensboro. Never gave it any thought.
That's so interesting that you grew up so close to Greensboro.
So and I had no clue it existed. So I remember him telling me this. And in my head, I was trying to picture Greensboro, and it was just like
Green.
desert land.
Oh, you're
like Arizona desert. Just there was nothing there. I had no thought of it. Anyway,
hilarious.
But yeah, I ended up just like I toured Greensboro, but it was the nursing like tour, so I didn't look at any of the buildings that I ended up being in every single day for 4 years.
Yeah.
But I just liked it. I liked the fact that it was a small campus, as opposed to like I grew up not touring. That's the wrong word. I grew up just like visiting Chapel Hill's campus.
Yeah, and that's a big campus.
And that's a big spread out campus.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm like, that's like a 15 walk to my next class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't care. Anyway. So I didn't like that. So I was like, okay, this is a cool campus. I like it. It's pretty. And it's small enough. So yeah, I applied to 2 places. I applied to UNCG and App State.
Okay.
And I don't even think that my App State, like, I don't think that my high school sent my transcript to App. So it's like, if I didn't get into UNCG, I was not going anywhere. So luckily I did.
Yay.
Hey.
But you got into the nursing program? Or did you just got into the... Okay.
I got into the school
I
under,
did
like,
not
the
know
nursing
that.
program. And then, right, like, I think during, like, right after orientation, I was like, F this. I don't want to do that. And then I just joined the Visual Performing Arts, like, BA. And, of course, like, as you know, we had to audition in.
To get into the BFA, right.
That was the last year that they did that.
Yeah.
And thank God, though, because...
Otherwise, I would not have gotten in, or I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have known. Yeah,
exactly.
same.
I would have known that out to audition.
No, I remember going to
gumption to do so.
Yeah.
right. I remember like getting into UNCG, and getting there, and then all these people talking about this BFA audition, and I was like, what is that? Like, what does that mean?
Right.
I like literally would have had no. Yeah.
Well, so fast forward, I'm graduating. COVID hits our junior year, like halfway through our junior year. We just got back from Mexico.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
That's like the time.
We were in Mexico when the first case happened in the United States.
Yeah,
of
and
COVID.
then when we got back,
everything
a
shut down.
week later, they were like, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
then they were like, just
And
kidding.
we just never came back.
We're never going back. So that is like my mental timeline of events.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, our entire senior year is like hybrid classes or just virtual. And I'm like depressed in my apartment, just going through it. And
For real?
my original plan was to move to Atlanta and then get an agent and do the acting judge
Mm-hmm.
and just like audition and whatever. I ended up not doing that because of COVID. I was like, I don't want to move to a city I've never been, where it's crowded, populated, and COVID is like in the midst of
her journey.
her
Journey.
Exactly. And I was like, that's not my journey. So I stayed back. And that's when I was just like, well, I need money.
Yeah.
So Cameron, you had just
Started
been hired at
GVG.
GVG, and then you like referred me, and I applied, and I got in. I got the job.
And I got in. I applied for the school. I got in.
Yeah, so I ended up just like working in food service for a year just to like make up money and like just kind of like wait it out, I guess, as far as COVID's concerned. But then I was in this relationship where the person I was with, who worked in the food service and then out of it, had gotten a promotion at their second job, and so we were like committed at the point, just being like, okay, well, I guess we'll just wait another year just to save money and then we can move.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that didn't work out, and so I just ended up staying back just because I had made that choice with that person at that time.
Right.
And I was like, F the food service industry.
Yeah.
I am not my best self.
Yeah, you were not. It wasn't good for you.
Girl.
It wasn't good for you.
She's like, no, I don't like you.
No, I liked you. I just like I could tell that you were not happy and that you just
Yeah, and it's like I can do the actual job. I can do like the table side, whatever, and get the tips, but everything else was just way too much. And I was just stressed. I was not happy. It was not for me, and so I left. And why I moved to Kernersville is because that's where my job is. And I was like, well,
might as well.
Yeah, might as well just get a 1-bedroom apartment, like 5 minutes from where I work.
Nice.
So my kids come at like 9 a.m. I can roll out at, God forbid, 8:50 and like leave my house then. I don't do that.
But I think it's time, Taja.
Oh, for my topic? Yeah. Let me stop. So my topic today is very, very simple, and I just think that it's a good conversation piece because it's something that I've been talking about with literally a lot of people for the last like 2 weeks. But it is community.
Okay.
And before I even talk about community, what is your definition of community? Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I thought I knew, and I don't. Until I started Googling. Well, I mean, like, I thought I knew a definition of community. It wasn't until I Googled it, and then I researched more, and I was like, no, this is more in-depth than you think it is.
Well, actually, I want to hear what the definition that you've read before I even answer, if
That's cheating.
Is that cheating?
I will say.
I feel like that's cheating.
I think that community is. I think that there's different levels of community. So I think that you have your. What's the word? God, words are hard. I'm so sorry that this is a podcast and I don't know how to speak.
That's so.
There's like a radius of community, right? Like I think there's the community of people that are in close proximity to you.
Yeah.
That you know on different levels that you see every day, maybe. Like that could be neighbors, that could be someone like, you know, your mail person, like your coworkers, whatever that is. Or like I consider regulars that come into my restaurant to be part of my community, right? And I think that is the like proximity level of community. It's that thing of, what is it they say, that if you take the same, you go to work at the same time every day and you see the same person walking their dog every day, if one day that person wasn't there, even if you've never spoken to that person, they would have an impact on you not seeing them, right? Like there was an unhomed person in Greensboro that I used to drive past every single day, and one time he wasn't there, and I got really freaked me out. And I was like, since then I've seen him, so he is there still, but so that kind of like the community of the people that take up space in your life that you see. I also think that there's the community of like your peers, like people like collaborators, that like people that you work with, people that you went to school with, your friends. And I think that community is more of like community, and your family as well, people that provide love and care for you, and that you provide love and care for, right?
Right.
I think those are my definitions. And also just like a community is a working system of people in a society, right?
Right.
Like, I'm part of the community of Winston-Salem, and my part of that community is that I make beverages for people to drink. You know, like in like a dumb sense, right? And like podcasts for people to listen to, and exactly. That is, and like in return, like people, you know, like come and sit at my bar and tell me a story or whatever, and they tell me, and like, you know, but like that is like the enrichment. That's how I enrich my community. That's how they enrich my community. Oh, cool. It's a working system of like you know,
give and take and
that's actually my definition. I take back the rest of what I said. That's
you're like that's
the one I'm sticking with.
I like that definition. I think that makes a lot of sense. I agree. I think when I think of my community in my life now, I think of my close friends that I keep regular contact with. And like the coworkers at my work, because the good thing about this job, different to other jobs that I've held, I do feel a sense of community within the center that I work at. And I've worked within the same company at different centers where they lack that sense of community that I feel every day at mine. I think people, specifically what they lack is people will go out of their way to check on you. Like the love and support is very clearly there. So I think community can be any group of persons where you do feel loved and supported in whatever case that is, whether it's like interpersonal relationships or with your job or with your art, and people like will show up for you. I think is where I find community, if like they show up for you. But more specifically, when I think about that of showing up, I personally, this might be like a little bit off topic. When it comes to like my friendships, I do value, and I notice and I value people who go out of their way to like reach out. If I feel as though I'm the one like reaching out to you all the time, I'll like pull back just to see how long it takes before we talk again. And sometimes it's months. And I'm like, you forgot my birthday.
No.
It was a very clear day that you could have like used that.
You had an excuse to talk. And
so I, with my relationships, I don't like struggle with that, but there are specific people that I want to keep in my life, but don't reach out, or I don't feel. It's like if I reached out, I knew I would have your support, but I don't always want to like search to find that.
Because there's a lot of emotional labor attached to that, right? Like being the person that is, why am I in charge of maintaining this relationship, right? Look, my mom always says it. The phone goes both ways.
It does.
The phone goes both ways.
And I've used that against her many times. Because I always call you mom. You never call me. She's like, I'm your mother. You're supposed to call me. But it goes both ways. So it's like, I haven't heard from you in a long time. What's up? Well, it goes both ways.
And I understand that people.
You get busy and
but still, I do think that with me, how I see community as the people that I stay in contact with, I think that directly affects like who I would consider to be a part of it. Community.
Oh no, I know. Okay, so Taja, what's the real definition?
So community, from 3 different sources that I have read, is just a group of individuals who all have the same common goal, interests, viewpoints, etc. And so from that, you can kind of narrow it down. Like the goals of the D.O.S.E is to provide a space for like the queer community, people of color community. That's like the biggest two communities, but those...
The queer community.
Y'all are gay.
I'm so sorry.
I was like, yes.
Moving on.
Yes, is there... But like those are two big ones.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like you think, especially like with my anxiety-filled brain, when doing something new and you're like, well, there are these things that are kind of already established that reach these communities that they say that they reach. But from my point of view, it does not reach me, if that makes any sense. Like, it's just like you may reach the queer community, but that may be a different age bracket, or there may be a different version of queer that you are presenting to this community. And same with like POC, like it may be a certain age bracket, youth or like elderly or like, but like there's no, and like as of right now, there's just no community for the age range between probably 16 and 30.
Yeah.
If you do not have children.
That's
Like if you have a child,
yeah.
like as soon as you birth a child, you have a community. Like anywhere and everywhere.
Absolutely.
If your child goes to daycare, that's community.
Right.
And then immediately you just have like other people that have children. You're like,
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
but like I don't have kids.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't have an immediate community, and I have to somehow walk outside and
Do
be
you
like,
feel like your community expanded when you got your cat?
yes.
Yeah.
Because other people have cats. I'm like, oh my god, can I come over and see your cat? And you're like, yeah. Even though she's crazy.
Hey, yeah. That's my friend.
The way you're defending her, I know everyone loves her. I know like
Rolled your eyes.
yeah.
That's
Anyways,
my friend.
because we're kind of like the same person. I believe that she is me in a cat's body.
Yeah, she is totally
and I know when I'm in like a groove. I know that I'm like doing well and like emitting good energy, because she will now, like if I'm working at my desk or like doing something, she would be under my legs, like at my feet, just looked up and like sound asleep, and I'm like, I'm doing something right.
She loves you.
But yeah, but like the word community gets thrown around a lot, and I feel like nobody really defines that. Like they just said, oh, I'm here to support arts community, and I'm like, for sure. What does that entail? Like I'm like, what of the arts community are you trying to bring out or support? And of course, like everybody might say everyone, but that's a hard thing
To just generalize.
to, yeah, like you can't really generalize that. Like there's too many different walks of life. If you just generalize community, because you can't really do it.
I do like the definition specifically stating like a common goal
Mhm.
for people, and I think it makes so much sense thinking of it that way. And then you're like, well, when you have a kid, you immediately have a community, because the goal is to like care and raise and keep this kid safe,
Yeah.
which like is probably why I feel such a strong sense of community at my job, because it's surrounded. It's all about children.
Yeah.
And it's very specific of like, this is how you keep them safe. This is what you do. Like there are rules and guidelines and stuff. But I think with animals too, I understand that as well.
Yeah.
Like you have a dog immediately, like
Oh,
anywhere you go. And they have dog meetups, you know. But they don't have cat meetups though.
I know.
And I
And I'm mad that I
Would
can't just take my
your cat enjoy that?
cats are a part of the community. No, I'm joking. And the cats have their own community with each other. But
True.
community is very important in terms of mental health, which is one of those things where you wonder how to not fix mental health, but make mental health better with community. Because I feel like from the pandemic and having that disconnect with people and trying to reconnect with people after that is very hard. It's stressful. You don't want to do anything wrong. You don't want to be too weird. And so people just kind of like suppress it, and they're like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to go out or do anything. But it's important to provide that community for people that are struggling and that need like an outlet, whether it just be to go to an event or hang out or like do something. But it's like, how do you make that? How do you curate that?
Yeah.
In a safe space.
It's a challenge to, I think, in discussing, like, how do you get people out?
Yeah.
When a lot of the reason, because the question that you have to answer is, why are people in, you know? Like,
Yeah.
why are we not
going out?
Wanting to be out in the world right now? And there's a lot of answers to that question. And there is a lot, I think, to do. Kicked me.
I know, I'm sorry. I realized. That's why I looked down, because I was like, oh my god.
There is a lot to do, I think, with the pandemic, right? We all spent so much time inside.
Yeah.
We all got comfortable being with ourselves, and now, like, we're all a little weirder, right? Like, we're all, like, a little more socially awkward.
It's true.
Like, I don't really, like, and I will say, like, having worked in the service industry throughout the entire pandemic, I think that human beings in society today genuinely don't know how to act in public.
Oh my god.
Like, just, like, don't know. And it's like, you're in your 50s.
Yeah.
You used to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you've done this for the majority of your life. Why don't you know how to act?
I do believe people would be better if they spent a year in the food service industry.
Well,
but specifically food service.
Yeah, I agree.
People are so particular about their food, and the notion that the customer is always right is wrong.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, this is a completely different topic, and I think about it daily because I work in the food service industry. But I think that this weird thing has happened in the industry and in the world, really, where there's this idea of, like, customer service and, you know, oh, well, I spent this much money on this thing, and therefore I'm entitled to you breaking your back and bending over backwards to doing everything for me that needs to be done. Yeah. And management in food service right now, specifically, is like, yeah, you're right. We should be bending over backwards and destroying our employees. And it's this weird thing that's happening where, you know, you hear everyone complaining about how no one wants to work, and the food service industry in particular has, like, one of the highest turnovers of any industry in terms of people getting hired and then quitting, and every restaurant on the planet right now is understaffed. Yeah. And it's because the management of restaurants in particular, because everything is becoming more and more corporate every day. And so the people that are making the decisions that are impacting the workers have never met any of these employees. They all work in offices in different cities, and they don't talk to guests. They don't work in a restaurant. You know, they don't, like, see the experiences that are happening in general. I'm speaking very generally right now. And so they're making these decisions that are meant to, you know, help the guest, and they're not thinking about what it's doing to their employees. And then they're like, well, why is everyone quitting on me? I don't understand what's happening. And that's one of those things of, like, well, first of all, you guys, this is not, you shouldn't have gotten me on this topic. You shouldn't have gotten me on this topic because I literally, the last thing I will say, and this is way off of the topic of community. It's okay. But kind of not. Like, your coworkers are your community. Like, I say this all the time. Working specifically in the food service, it's a different kind of community, in my opinion, because I think that you experience, and this is dark, a very specific kind of trauma working in the food service industry that no one understands except for your coworkers. Yeah. And, well,
because every experience in, like, different restaurants, it's all
different. Right. And more likely than not, you spend more time at work than you do at home. You know, like, you think about it, like, I'm spending my life with these people, right?
Yeah. You spend more time with your coworkers
than your family. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Especially right now in holiday season.
Yeah.
So this is my PSA, like, when you go out on Thanksgiving or Christmas or Christmas Day or whatever,
be nice.
think about the people that are there that are not with their families.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm going to be at work on Thanksgiving. I'm going to be at work on Christmas Eve, on Christmas Day, all day. And it's so weird.
Christmas Day.
People are always like, I'm so sorry that you're here. Like, oh, have a happy. And I'm like, well, if you weren't here, then I wouldn't have to be here.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Right.
But again, I can't be too upset with the guests because at the end of the day, the management decided this is a really profitable thing. We're going to stay open.
For
You know what I mean? Anyways, so just, like, have respect for your, like, bartender, server's time and energy.
Yeah.
They've probably been through a lot today.
Yeah.
It's true.
Anyways, we have to move on because I could talk about this for 4 hours.
I'm saying it could be its own
It
episode.
could literally be. It could be its own
Food
podcast.
service.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I could make a separate podcast
Just for the
and
service.
interview. Maybe I'll do that and talk to my service industry people.
Yeah.
Like it's a
It's
crazy
food
world.
service horror stories is what it is.
And if you've never
yeah.
title.
Yeah.
worked,
It's food service horror stories.
You could get submissions. Like, people have things to say. Could read
you guys are
stories.
giving me ideas.
Yeah, because
It's not-
people
I like it.
listen.
I love a submission, like, podcast, too.
Yeah, me
Let
too.
me tell you my stories.
Anyways,
Next question.
community.
Oh,
Do you have more
community.
stuff?
I mean, because this is one of those things, like, definitely Spencer, who was on the last podcast.
Shout out Spencer.
Shout out Spencer. It was like me, him, and Langston, and someone else that performed at Amplify that his name is blanking in my brain, so I'm sorry about that. We were talking about this sense of community, and it's like, how do we, because right now we have like a cycle that we have now formed and that we see where it's like, you go to someone's house and there's like a jam session, like there's like people playing instruments, things like that. Like, it's just very open.
Yeah.
It can be whatever it wants to be. There's no pressure. You want to try something new, you can try something new. And then from that cycle, you get to the lab. And the lab is like kind of like in a community space. And there's probably people that you don't know, but like the same thing, artists are performing. There's also a jam session. So, if you want to perform and it sound like through professional equipment, like that's like a whole different thing. And then you get to amplify, which is like the stable ground of like performing as an artist. Like, it is like more professional grade almost. It's more cleaner, but it still has the same elements
It's like a true stage. Like,
Yeah.
Like,
but then the cycle continues. Like, I'm like, it doesn't end. Like, right now it's like that is the cycle that's happening. And so it's like, how do you expand that more? And so like Langston knows someone that is now learning how to make vinyl. That is like important for any recording artist here at all. Because they're like, oh, sick, someone knows how to actually like make vinyl with mime. And it's like, yes.
that's
So it's like
cool.
crazy. And then like Spencer knows someone that knows how to repair equipment and repair instruments. And you're like, great. And so like now it's like this weird like community forming of like mostly centered around music.
Musicians.
Yeah, like musicians like coming together and like making a stable ground for musicians in Winston-Salem. And so I'm like, wow, this is really like happening. But in my brain, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not a musician. So like this community doesn't really serve me, but I'm really like glad to be able to help and like provide a space for it. But it's just like, how do I, like what is, now I'm like rethinking like myself.
I think it's so interesting that you say that. We were like, oh, well, how do I provide a space for that? When you literally just told us that the thing that you is like creating spaces. So like obviously this community does involve you because you are literally creating the space for those communities to do, and not only are you creating the space, but you're using your craft to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's like, how do you expand it from music? And I feel like that's like it's weird that I'm in the music scene here and I don't play any instruments. I know nothing about music.
Yeah,
but I'm in it. I'm like, how did I get here? Like, I'm like, I don't.
I had a similar experience like that in Greensboro, where I was like, I found myself with a lot of musicians, and I think it had a lot to do with videography because it was like, oh, you have a camera.
Yeah. Oh, can you
Can you film this? Can you film that? And and so I found myself like I'd be in a room with a bunch of creatives like planning videos or like planning projects, and like everyone in the room was a musician except for me, and I'm like, oh, this is like cool, but like, and then you get into that weird thing of like, okay, I'm doing so much for you guys, like how are we gonna make this a reciprocal relationship, because like I love you and I love your music and I want to support you, but like there's only like, it's not like this doesn't fulfill my artistry, right? So I understand what you mean in that sense.
Yeah.
So how did you find that balance? Or
well, I don't really like do any of that anymore. Like,
you're like, I don't do that.
People, but I'm also not in Greensboro right now.
Yeah.
But like I would say like doing like filming the lab and editing that footage was so much fun for me.
Yeah.
Like I thoroughly enjoyed that. And like I feel really happy to have this footage that I can share with those artists.
Yeah.
You know, like
so
that made me feel really good. Like and just posting some of it, and like all of them reached out to me and they were all like, this is amazing, like thank you so much. And I was like, I'm gonna like cut like your full stuff, like you're gonna have access to this, and like that's for you, like that's and it's for me too, because like there was a little bit more creativity going into that, because I had 2 cameras, I had like
you had like a stable, then you were like,
and I was able to
like,
kind of create an atmosphere with the like, you know, space that I had on the screen. I think that the expansion, I mean, I think that you're probably thinking a lot about this because you're in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
The expansion is happening, and I think as it tends to happen, you're not going to realize how much it's expanded until you look around and there's like 100 people in the room, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's when it'll be like, oh, like we've created like this ginormous thing, right?
Yeah. Because I'm realizing now, like after doing a whole bunch of research on like what like type of communities and like what does community mean to you and blah blah etc. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, I have no idea what my community is, and I have to now find that personally for myself. Like as a business owner and like as a company, I know the community and what we're reaching, but that doesn't give me the give or take that it needs.
And,
So I'm like. Now it's a weird stance where I'm like,
and I think that there's a challenge that comes with being an artist and like having an arts community. I'm so sorry. Having like an artist community, because you are combining things that make you feel really good and also like people that you love. Yeah. Right? And so there's like artists that you love and respect, like co-worker, collaborator relationship, but also friendships. And sometimes you don't need to work with your friends. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that relationship isn't right. Yeah. Like you need to be friends with that person, not collaborators with that person. And so it can be very challenging because there's a weird line there of like, and then you also kind of get into, okay, we're going to go out and have a drink. But are we doing this as collaborators? Are we doing this as friends? Like what?
Like what are we doing?
Is this a date? For real? Like for real? Like what level are we on right now? And how do I like maintain this relationship in a healthy way for both of us? Like I think we've had this experience where we'll go out and it's like, okay, we're gonna hang out and we're not gonna talk about.
Yeah, you're like, we're not talking about anything.
But we have to like draw the line.
Yeah, you're like no. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like, no, like tonight that's like, we're not talking about work. That's when I texted you the other night. I was like, I need to hang out with Taja and I don't want to talk about it.
You're like, we're not talking about anything.
Talk about in between. I just want to hang out.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a very healthy thing to do though. Is like create that boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. I think it's important because I can have friends at work, but it's like, okay, are we work friends?
Yeah.
Or are we friends outside of work?
Yeah. You can very easily like create a group of people, like a community of people, and we all go see like a live show or like go to open mic or like go to a jazz thing or like something. But like having a group of people all together, and then of course like you're probably like, well, I just have a group of friends, but like that sure I don't have that many friends. And it's one of those things of like,
well, also like how do you make new friends as an adult without kids, without school, and without, you know,
like you need like a club.
That's a way to do it.
Setting. You need the shared like goal to find that community.
Yeah.
Which which ties back into your definition of community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Because I know people, and like I know Langston's friends, who. I mean, if they're listening to this, it's like, Taja, you were my friend. I'm like, yeah, sure, but you guys have thing that you do that I do not fit in.
Right.
Like, and I know that,
right.
and I'm not gonna squeeze myself in there because that's just not.
That is true. There's a thing about like music friends, particularly music friends like that.
Yeah.
That it's like when you're hanging out, you're jamming,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fun to like be a part of for a little bit.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like if I'm not like I don't do that, so now I'm bored.
I know, because I'm like, okay, you guys are playing.
I think that's when I left the Halloween party.
Yeah.
Actually, it was like when the jamming started. I was like, this is fun. I'm really enjoying this. I'm gonna go home because I want to go to bed, and I don't play an instrument. And I think it's fabulous and amazing that you have that for yourself.
No, for sure, 100%.
But you know.
Because like what I really
Not for me.
What I really want.
What do you want?
Is one, I want like adult dance classes. Those do not exist anywhere. Yeah. Like the amount of them, they only exist in Durham, North Carolina. We won't get into it. But like every dance studio is like ballet or contemporary and is curated as an academy for children. And I'm like, that is fantastic and great for those young bodies. But me, I would love to dance, you know? And so it's like, well, here we are again. I just have to do it. So it's like, but like, how do you do that? Like, I could do it in my house, but like the basement floor is a little bouncy. So that's a no. But then like Gabby's basement, but then it's cold.
And
it's like
hard. Don't hurt my knees.
So it's like, how where?
And I'm curious, what kind of dance are you trying to like get into classes specifically?
In the beginning, like it's really like I did competitive cheerleading for like 8 years, so like I understand the concept of like doing a routine,
right. Yeah.
But I have no idea how to choreograph anything. So it's really like we will put on a video of like a dance to a song. We will all watch it. We will all learn it together, and then we will all do it. Like it's very much like, look at this video. Do you see what the movement? Okay, so we got it. We're gonna mimic that, and then we're gonna attempt it.
So what you really need is just like a group of TikTok dancing friends.
Mm-hmm. No, literally, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna.
But not TikTok dances though. If there's something cringy about the.
Well, no, we're not gonna post them on TikTok. We're just gonna do it for each other. It's not like.
Oh, okay. We're not gonna post them, you know.
We're first one. Ready? It's about damn time. I used to know it. I don't know the rest of it. I'm gonna need a man or woman.
Man, not man or woman.
This is the second time that we have mentioned this video on this podcast.
Because it's so funny.
You know that TikTok dance? It's for.
That's good. That's good.
Lizzo
keep it that way.
Lizzo made a TikTok teaching us how to do the dance because too many people were doing it wrong, and so she was like, "Okay, listen.
No,
it's about dance." And it's so funny. Yeah. Anyways, it's really good.
Yeah, but something simple like that, but also like creative meetups, but like just like making the. Like my mom sent me a video of, I don't know if it was John Green or if it was Hank Green. It's one of the brothers. But it was about like if you were feeling lonely right now.
I saw that.
It's not your fault.
Yeah,
like, he was like the system that they have put in place where you K through 12, you go to school and then you go to college for 4 years. And then you get your degree and you're supposed to go into the field of your job, and then you do. And then you get married, and then you have kids, and then your kids go to school. Yeah. And then you have that formed community. But if you don't do that, there's nothing in place for you. And I was like, this is irritating. But I'm like, no, but that is true. If you don't have a kid, you don't have a community. I'm not having a kid.
I was going to say,
I'm not doing it.
Don't have a kid.
I'm not
don't
conforming to that.
I don't think that would improve
my quality of life.
Yeah.
No. My question is, what is your community?
Okay. My community is, my biggest community is, right now, I think, is my coworkers. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's true, actually. I think that, like, in frequency, my coworkers, just because I see them every day, mm-hmm. and I spend so much time with them, and there's so much, like, trauma bonding that's happened.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, definitely the people that I work with. And then my family. I'm very connected to my family. But not like my huge family. Like, my immediate family and, like, my aunts on my mom's side. Like, and a few of my cousins I'm very connected to. I mean, I talk to my parents all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom.
And then, hi, Mom. She's listening. We love you. And people that I went to school with. And, like, people that I've worked on projects with. My friends. Those are my friends, you know?
Yeah.
Like, those are my peers and my collaborators, but also my friends. And I think the part that's the most enriching about that community is that it keeps expanding. Like, I keep getting new places to go to, right? Like people are in California and New York and, like, traveling the country, and it's like...
And then they meet people.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, the community is getting so much bigger because of that.
Yeah.
In like a actual distance-wise, and while distance, you know, it sucks because I don't see them as much, it's like... Once you settle somewhere, now I have, like, a new location to, like, explore with somebody. You know what I mean? Like, like when Carla went to Chicago, it's like, oh, now I have a person in Chicago that if I ever end up over there, you know what I mean? Or, yeah.
And then when I visited her, I made friends over there, too.
Yeah.
People that she met.
So now it's like you have all these, like, pockets of people in the world, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
What I like what you guys are doing with, like, just in your personal lives and in your professional lives is, like, oh, there's not a space for artists to, or, like, you're noticing there's not a space for artists to get together and, like, paint on one giant canvas. They'll put that up and make that for you.
Yeah.
Of, like, this community of musicians need a place to, like, jam and they want something recorded. I can set that up for you.
Yeah.
And you're finding, like, oh, there's not dance classes for adults, and you just want to, like, get together with some people who want to learn this routine and do it, set that up.
Yeah.
And, like, find that. And I can be a part of that because I love it too.
Yeah.
So, like, stuff like that. Anyone who's willing and able, just set a time and a place and
Yeah.
So think, and then, like, drawing that all back to community. If the common goal is whatever y'all have agreed upon, then there's your community. Whether it's, like, for that day or if you want to make it a weekly, monthly, whatever, like, a consistent thing.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, I think, just communicating that and then actively practicing it is, like, the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
To do it. But, yeah. So, dance party?
Yes.
Dance party.
And I'm like, yeah, no, 100%.
Dance party. Totally. Well, guys, I really think that we did it today.
Oh, yeah, we did it.
I think we did it. So we are going to finish up. Do you want to share your zine?
Oh, sure.
I would love to see. Let's see what you get. Okay, we got The Silent World. Can't speak.
Yeah.
Can senior adults be saints?
Can they?
You tell me.
It seemed like in that book that they were going to say yes. Because it does say a church study course book.
Gotcha.
But I don't think so.
Oh. Okay.
I will counter it.
Depends on the adult.
Yeah.
I definitely know adults who refuse to grow with the times.
Yeah.
They're like, and then the people around them they just write it off of, like, oh, they grew up in a different time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but times have changed.
You're like, we're not there.
So.
You're still in the world, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is mine.
No bunny.
I did it, I was creative with the shape of the paper.
Yeah.
I got a little bunny. And then it kind of has, like, a work focus. I guess I was on my...
Your work, right?
My work. But yeah, blasting in. They worked deep into the night. We got some guys, like, in a mine working. And then, like, some little factories over here. And then a tree bunny.
Tree bunny.
With an axe.
With an axe.
That's cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I went with the typical, like, book format.
I like it.
Nice.
I found all this, like, Beating a Bride, Boy Crazy, Full-Time Heartache, so I put these all together.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I want.
Ooh.
Call Me Assassin, My Girlie from Pose.
Yes.
Pose is an adult western if you've never seen it. It's very much not.
I was like, it is not.
It is not.
On the edge.
I just like this guy.
Yeah, I like that guy.
Nighttime darker, I don't know. And then the back of it.
The Shadow
I love that.
I love the books.
Yeah. I could use a little help. Yeah.
The plants. I could use a little help.
I could use a little help. A little water.
Aw. Well, thank you. I love that. And as always, we like to shout out some stuff that's happening in the area. I'm kind of like trimming back on that part of this podcast just because our Instagram and social media is so much more in depth in all of this. Yeah. However, I do want to quickly shout out Culture Winston-Salem now has open public gallery hours.
Yeah.
So the space that we are currently in right now is an open gallery. So on Tuesdays through Thursdays from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., you can come up and look at the art. So yeah, come check it out. And there's also like photography work. There's all kinds of work. You walk around the building. It can be confusing. So you go to Courtside Cafe in Winston-Salem, and there's like an entrance on that side, and you'll have to like check in with the security, and they'll take you up. But yeah, I highly recommend it. And that's what I got. Thank you, Marilou.
Thank you.
It was fun. I hope you had a good time.
I'm sorry if I took us off track.
No, I love it. Cool. I love it.
We love a good tangent.
Yeah, that's part of the experience.
Yeah, your editor can have fun.
I'm the editor. Cool. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your daily dose. Yay! Bye.